We are the champions of the world. And President Donald Trump is the champion of all champions. He had a very busy weekend. He was at the NCAA Wrestling Championships in Oklahoma at the Wells Fargo Arena. And man, when he walked out on the arena floor, everybody in Oklahoma let you know exactly how they felt about President Donald Trump. Donald Trump apparently was the main event, and the NCAA Wrestling Championships were, they were just there to keep the crowd entertained in between Donald Trump photo ops. But he shook hands, he waved to everybody. I mean, keep in mind, Oklahoma is the reddest state in the entire country. As far as I know, or if I'm correct in saying so, the Republicans pretty much control all of Oklahoma. There isn't a single Democrat representative anywhere in that state, which is why, well, that's why everyone there looks so happy. But President Donald Trump was on site to witness the stunning victory of Wyatt Hendrickson, an Air Force cadet, 24 years old, who overcame as an underdog and beat the favored contender, who was a U.S. Olympian, and was able to win the heavyweight championship at the NCAA wrestling match. And Donald Trump was right there to welcome him and to salute him and to give him a fist bump. And as you can tell here, Ryan Hendrickson, very, very excited to have President Donald Trump there as well.
America. Captain America.
Rob, I can't believe it.
My jaw's on the floor.
He did it.
Hey. Shut up. Shut up. Everybody shut up. Shut up, Rob.
He wrapped himself in the American flag. He saluted the president. He went down, shook his hand, and then they took a whole bunch of photos. But it was a very stunning victory, and it was a very exciting moment for not just the young man who won and the president of the United States, but pretty much everybody who was there at the arena. They got to see an incredible match. They got to see their favorite president, and it was a good time was had by all. But that's not the only place where Donald Trump shows what kind of a champion he is. That's not the only place where Donald Trump is winning. Donald Trump and his team, his entire staff, have been overcoming incredible odds and getting remarkable things done in a very short period of time. We are still 6 weeks away from the 100-day mark. The first 100 days of anyone's presidency really mark the turnaround, really mark how they set themselves apart from their predecessors. Well, Donald Trump has set himself apart from every predecessor he's ever had. The 47th president of the United States, outperforming all of the others except maybe himself. Well, probably actually even himself too. And he's done it with a crack team of people who know what their goal is, know what their role is, and work diligently every single day to get it done. And one of those people is Kash Patel, the newly minted FBI director, who has been in office for 3 weeks and has already done some the amount of work that the FBI has been able to do in the last couple of weeks, it really makes you wonder, what the heck were you guys doing the last 4 years?
This shows what the men and women of the FBI can do when they have leadership who are in lockstep with the national security mission of safeguarding our citizens. Just in the last 3 weeks, Trey, the FBI has arrested and brought to justice, thanks to the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi, 3 top 10 of the FBI's most wanted. Let me just say that again. Not 1, not 2, but 3 of the FBI's most wanted top 10 are now in custody because of our relationships with folks like Director Ratcliffe and Secretary Hegseth and Rubio, and the list goes on. But we've also returned to justice in just 1 short week's time one of the architects of the Abbey Gate explosion that killed 13 of our service members. We did that in 1 week, flying through multiple countries and going into Pakistan and utilizing our liaison relationships and the leverage that we have thanks to great guys like Johnny Ratcliffe, and getting a modicum of justice to the American people. And just to put that in perspective, those folks have been on the run for 4 years. And in the last 12 months before I got into this seat, Trey, do you know how many top 10 FBI's most wanted were arrested by the FBI? 0. That's the difference. Yeah. 4 weeks in, we got 3, and we're just warming up.
Look at that. That's a 300% improvement. It's probably even more than that. But that's exactly what happens when you have a team of people that work together. And that's something that we've always said is very interesting and very indicative of Donald Trump's philosophy when it comes to leadership. You bring together a bunch of people who are skilled in their various different areas of expertise, but also can work well together and can share resources. And never before have we seen so many different people in these cabinet positions not just handle their own department, but work in conjunction with the other departments to get things done. I mean, we talked about this all the time, especially with something like Ukraine, where you have Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, going over to meet with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. You've got Marco Rubio and Mike Waltz flying over to Saudi Arabia. You've got Steve Witkoff. You've got everybody, a team of people who are all involved, energy secretaries working together to formulate deals with the Commerce Department. I mean, it is really... It's less of individuals who are in charge of one department and just a group of very smart and intelligent and skilled people working together for the United States of America, which, let's face it, that's what we all want. And it's not just the FBI. It's not just, it's not just Kash Patel. It's also ICE and Tom Homan working together with the Department of Homeland Security, working together with the Department of Defense. And Tom Homan is saying, look, we have these numbers way, way down, and they will stay way down. And wherever there is a new threat, we are going to attack that head on because we have these strategic relationships.
They're down. Illegal entry is down 96%. What's most impressive is known gotaways. Known gotaways under Joe Biden, were on average 1,800 people a day crossed the border, weren't apprehended, weren't processed, weren't vetted. We don't know who they are, where they came from. That's a huge national security issue. Known gotaways are down to, double digits now. But, we're not going to be satisfied till that known gotaway is down to zero. We're going to secure that border, make sure no public safety threats or national security threats cross that border and get away. So, look, like we knew what would happen as we secure the southern border, the land border. Some of these groups are going to take to the maritime. They're going to take to the water. So we're, got the Coast Guard, you got CBP Maritime Patrol, we're going to have the Navy out there looking at the maritime. And again, it's just not about illegal immigration. It's about people who come to this country to do us harm. It's public safety threats, national security threats. You look under the Biden administration, we had over 400 people on terrorist watch lists that were arrested trying to sneak in the country, but we got 2.2 million gotaways under Joe Biden. 2.2 million people paid more to get away. They could have paid less money, just get to the border, turn themselves over to a Border Patrol agent, get released within 24 hours, get a free airline ticket to the city of their choice, get a free hotel room, get 3 meals a day, get free medical care, and get work authorization in 90 days. So why did more than 2 million people pay more to get away? They didn't want to be vetted, they didn't want to be fingerprinted. We're going to secure the border, both the land border and the maritime border, to make sure these public safety threats and national security threats will get in the country. So we'll use these assets as long as we can till we get to the point where we have total operational control of the border and national security threats have no avenue into this country.
It brings up two very interesting points that a lot of people don't realize. First of all, that when you lock down the land border on the United States of America and Mexico through Arizona and California and Tennessee and New Mexico, when you lock that down and you don't allow any more of these illegal criminals to just walk on into our country, which is, basically upholding the law. When that happens, all of a sudden, they don't go home and give up. They are like, okay, we need another alternative. We need another avenue, and they take to the water. So he says we need to get the Navy involved. We need to get the Coast Guard involved, and that's where those assets come into play. That's where that relationship, once again, with these individuals, not working as individuals, but working as a cohesive unit, can come together so that Tom Homan can pick up the phone, call Pete Heggs at the Department of Defense and say, send some ships. Send some maritime experts because we've got illegals. Now they can't come across the border on the land, so they're trying to get it over through sea. Eventually, they're going to fly through the air, and we'll take care of that threat as well. But that's how you get things done, and that's how you not only make America safe again, but you keep America safe, and Donald Trump and his team know that. The other interesting thing about this is he said, look at all these known gotaways. There are so many gotaways that could have, and we all saw it. We all saw what happened. You show up, you get free health care, you get free education, you get a check card for $500, you get a free ticket anywhere in the country, and then you get to go stay at the Roosevelt Hotel with 3 square meals a day. Why wouldn't anyone want one of those things? Well, The reason you wouldn't want one of those things, the reason you're a known gotaway is because you don't want to get fingerprinted, you don't want to get vetted, you've got some kind of criminal past, or you have some kind of criminal future. And either way, those are not people we want in our country. So the known gotaways were the real threat. And Tom Homan said the Biden administration did absolutely nothing to stop them. In fact, they ignored all of the existing laws, and all that the Donald Trump administration is doing is upholding the laws that are already on the books.
They were given due process as according to the laws on the books. See, that's the difference between the Trump administration and Biden administration. We're actually using the laws on the books to enforce immigration law and secure the border at the highest level it's ever been. The Biden administration not only ignored the law, they violated the law. Like District Court and District 5 said that not only they violating law, they're actually ignoring the law altogether. We are using the laws on the books to enforce our borders immigration laws and the interior enforcement enforcement. If you look at the border numbers are down 96%. We already got 40,000 criminals removed by ICE in the interior, which more was done in 6 weeks than the Biden administration did in a year. We're using the laws on the books. We're not making this up. Everything we've done is based on a statute that was enacted by Congress and signed by the president. The president quickly, by proclamation, invoked the authorities he has under an Alien Enemies Act, which he's allowed to do.
And speaking of that Alien Enemies Act, he's still under the orders of this judge who continues to fight tooth and nail with President Donald Trump, ICE, the Department of Defense, the Department of Justice, and everyone else that Donald Trump has given authority to help clear out our country of dangerous, illegal criminals and keep Americans safe. And you have to scratch your head and wonder, why is this judge doing this? What possible good could this judge see in keeping illegal immigrants, or ordering President Donald Trump to keep illegal immigrants, or trying to hobble Donald Trump's ability to export and exile illegal immigrants from the United States? What possible could there be? And the only thing you can come up with is that this is a Trump derangement syndrome case where the judge is the last line of defense for the Democrat Party, who's lost power in every political arena. They lost power in the White House. They lost power in the Senate. They have very little power in the House of Representatives. And so they look to their friends in the district courts and the judiciary, and they do whatever they can to thwart President Donald Trump. Although the Trump administration has a secret weapon in a Department of Justice that will not allow weaponization and will fight it tooth and nail. And Pam Bondi alluded to just that fact and said, look, we know that these judges are not looking out for justice. They're not looking out for the good of the American people. These are activist judges who are part of the Democrat Party, and the only thing they're trying to do is stop President Trump.
This is an out of control judge, a federal judge trying to control our entire foreign policy, and he cannot do it. You know, he dragged us into court on a Saturday without any notice, and then he's continuing these hearings. He's trying to ask us about national security information, which he is absolutely not entitled to. We are appealing. We will be in court Monday again. We will win. We will prevail. There are 261 reasons why Americans are safer today, and that's because those people are now in an El Salvador prison. And we are going to follow the law, and we are going to protect Americans. You know, there's a reason why Biden's approval rating was plummeting because of the border. There's a reason why the current Democrats' approval rating is at 29%. People want to be safe. This is President Trump's agenda to keep Americans safe, Maria. It's basic public safety. Get these people out of our country as fast as we can. They're not immigrants. They're illegal aliens who are committing the most violent crimes you can imagine on Americans. Murder, rapes. You know, ask the parents of all of these young women who have been violently strangled, raped, and murdered. And we are going to continue to make America safe again because that's President Trump's agenda.
Yeah. And now that the Congress is back in session, now that they're back in Washington, D.C. after their break, they hopefully will take some kind of action. There's already articles of impeachment filed. There's also going to be some kind of legislation, I imagine, to rein in the ability of these judges to rule on some of these powers of the United States executive branch and the president of the United States. Hopefully that will happen quickly, but you know, it is Congress, so well, we're going to have to wait and see. But it's not just domestically where Donald Trump is succeeding. It's not just here at home where Donald Trump is a superhero. He and his team have been working diligently abroad to keep Americans safe. And of course, one of those areas where they're working is in the Red Sea with Yemen and the Houthis, who continue to bombard and attack American ships and America's allies as they try to cut through and avoid having to go the long way over Africa with just doing a day's work, just showing their just commercial vessels going in and out of the Red Sea. But the Houthis are resilient, and so is then Donald Trump. And Mike Waltz was on the Sunday shows yesterday to explain exactly why that is important and how effective Donald Trump has been against these terrorists.
Well, we've taken out key Houthi leadership, including their head missileer. We've hit their headquarters. We've hit communications nodes, weapons factories, and even some of their over-the-water drone production facilities. Just in the last couple of days, President Trump has decided to hit the Houthis and hit them hard, as opposed to in the last administration where literally weeks or months would go by with these kind of one-off pinprick attacks. And as a result, we've had one of the world's most critical sea lanes get shut down. I mean, these guys are like Al-Qaeda or ISIS with advanced cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and some of the most sophisticated air defenses, all provided by Iran. So everybody understands the impact here. The last time one of our destroyers went through the straits there, it was attacked 23 times. 75% of our U.S. flag shipping now has to go around the southern coast of Africa rather than going through the Suez Canal. And keeping the sea lanes open, keeping trade and commerce open is a fundamental aspect of our national security. The last administration was not effective. The Trump administration and President Trump have decided to do something much harder, much tougher, and what we'll see, but I think will be much more effective.
Yeah, hopefully it will be much more effective. And I think that's probably, and if it isn't, Donald Trump will try something else. But I imagine that bombarding your enemies with massive amounts of munitions, taking out their leaders, killing their chief missileers, and basically saying, look, we don't care who's backing you, we're not backing down. That should do the trick. Anyway, we're gonna wait and see. One last piece of information over the weekend was, last week was when Donald Trump signed the executive order to begin dismantling the Department of Education. And Linda McMahon was on all the Sunday shows, and she was all over the place, and she was on CNN getting peppered with questions. But interestingly enough, it seems like even CNN understood just how poorly run the Department of Education was, and just how much of a waste they were when it comes to education. And Linda McMahon was right there to explain exactly how getting federal government out of your child's education and returning it to the state levels is a much better solution.
Do you believe that the federal government has a responsibility to ensure that all children, rural children, urban, rich, poor, special needs, have access to quality education?
That is certainly the goal of the president. He has said that he wants to make sure that there is equal access to quality education for every student in our country, which is why he is such a proponent of school choice. He doesn't believe that any child should be trapped in a failing school, that we should have parents have the ability to choose where their children can be able to go to school, so that if they are in a failing school, they have an opportunity to have better education somewhere else, that they have the tools to be able to do that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what President Donald Trump is doing by taking the money away from the federal government and returning it to the local administrators. And then, of course, CNN goes, well, wait, how's that going to actually help?
There's lots of data that shows that, I think, to put it mildly, education could be better in America.
Absolutely.
But you also just admitted, and it's just fact, that most of the funding, most of all of the curriculum, and everything that goes into educating our students happens on a local level. So I'm not quite sure how eliminating the Department of Education is going to make those test scores go up.
Well, a lot of the funding that goes into states now goes with a lot of red tape, a lot of strings attached to it. And so governors and state superintendents of education have said, look, if we have the funding coming in which allows us to be more creative, how can we spend that? The president believes, as I do, that the best education is that's closest to the students. And I want to look at some of the states that have been incredibly great over the last couple of years, like Louisiana. their NAEP score showed that they had improved the most of any states. Those were programs that were put in place by the governors, by the superintendent of education, not having anything to do with the Department of Education in Washington. So what we need to do is to make sure that the funding has a clear path, the funding continues, but that the states are allowed to spend the money where they need to spend it, to hire teachers, increase their salaries, make sure that our students with special needs are taken care of. And that's what we want to make sure that happens.
And that is something that's going to happen under this new system with Donald Trump removing the Department of Education from the equation so that the money can go directly to the states and the children can benefit. And we can have not just the strongest and the safest kids, but also the smartest kids. And that's something that's going to make everybody cheer, just like Donald Trump was cheering at the NCAA championship for wrestling over the weekend. Listen, we have so much more to cover. There's so much more news that happened over the weekend, and that's going to continue to happen today. And if you'd like to learn more, make sure that you listen to our second daily podcast. Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Every single day at noon, we live stream our podcast. We put it up on iTunes and Spotify. So wherever it is you like to listen to podcasts, all you have to do is go there right now, search Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, download, listen, and enjoy.